how many people use flip charts and are comfortable with flip charts today? This reminds me of a story last night. Kathy and I were actually at a meeting, and there was a presentation that they expected the visual to work. And as all technology has its flaws, it didn't. So there was really 15 minutes now that we wasted, and then they ended up sitting there just speaking. What if they had thought of a backup? And this is a wonderful method because it's not outdated. You have an opportunity to make some cognitive connections as in handwriting. And today we lose that connection. Many of the kids today are not learning script and writing. And there's definite research that says there's cognitive connections between the handwriting and the brain and making those connections. And there's certain do's and don'ts about flip charts. Some even are very offensive if you use markers that are really smelly. I happen to like Mr. Script. So usually anytime I'm going anywhere and doing anything, knowing that I am going to be writing on a flip chart, I have my scented markers. Purple is grape, you have cherry, you have lime, it's wonderful, chocolate.
And you bring them with you?
I usually bring them with me. And there are also do's and don'ts as far as what color. Does anybody have an idea of what colors you might not choose to use if you were writing on a flip chart and happened to have been sitting in the back of the room? Yellow. Orange is another one that technically you don't use. And a lot of times red, because red also indicates sometimes a disaster, usually if you're not making budget. And sometimes you're even encouraged to stay away certain color combinations because that can actually trigger. Orange and brown and orange and black might signal Halloween. And you can actually have people be lost in thoughts as they're thinking about what those colors are doing for them, because colors also make a difference to people. Red and green might symbolize Christmas, so you want to stay away from certain combinations. I happen to love this turquoise one, and usually the rule of thumb is to only use 2. Otherwise, it gets very confusing. I'm going to use brown, and I'm going to use the turquoise. They also, the difference between some of the markers, these are wedged. And if you have a wedged marker, you have an opportunity to have a clearer kind of printing. So the difference. Usually you have some form of title. And you don't usually do that. Technically, you're not supposed to use the capital letters. I don't know why.
Not all caps.
Not all caps. I think it's just easier to read. The other idea is to have 5 or 6 lines per flip chart. You also want to do is either do a dash or a square to separate your lines. What this can be used for, if you're going back as a summarization, it's an opportunity for you to check to indicate that somebody has already, that the point has been made, or you're coming back and summarizing your point. So you want to do a line. Usually an inch for every 10 people. Flip chart should technically not be used if you have a room that's greater than 25 people. Then it becomes lost. You can't really see. 2 inches if you have people that are up to 25, just the sheer distance that people are sitting. Separate your lines between with color. And purposely, never talk while you're writing on the flip chart, unless you can sit and write very well sideways. Because what happens is you end up talking to the flip chart, and people can't hear you. It doesn't reverberate and bounce back and hit the end. Yes, Christine?
And the other thing is the silence is really scary when you're doing that, but like when I'm sitting here watching you do it, it's not a big deal.
It isn't, but you feel it.
Yeah.
I don't feel it anymore, but I used to. But you,
The silence draws us in, and the act of writing and not speaking is what's going on, curiosity.
and I might have broken the rule, but technically you should not also, bless you, use more than 2/3 of the actual chart paper. Sometimes, depending on where you are, you might want to find out if you can use the Post-it ones that you can stick on the wall. Many places, I do a lot of Toastmaster conferences, and some of the hotels, you're not allowed to post anything on the wall, so be careful of that. But generally, you either have the opportunity to have the Post-it, or you have, and the first thing I usually do is cut up masking tape. And usually the flip chart paper is pretty longer with a border, and I usually mark it down so that when I want to flip it, and somebody from an audience is always going to run up and help you, that you instantly have tape that you can put it on and run away. So you're not actually doing any maintenance kind of stuff while you're doing it. The other thing, if you're going to do a major presentation, never go directly. If you're going to pre-do your charts, which I highly recommend, because usually you know what you're going to say, always leave a space between. And then what I generally do is earmark the end of the pages so that when you're pulling the page up, you're going directly to the next chart underneath. If you have an opportunity and you might not know everything you're going to say, or you're concerned what you're going to say might be lost, you can pencil in very lightly over some of the areas that you are a little bit hesitant about or you want to elaborate on and make sure that you're not losing what you have to say. No one can see what you write up here in pencil. Same token, if you want a chart that you want to display, either a bar chart, a pie graph, you can draw it on in pencil. And then when you're actually using your markers, you can bring it alive by drawing it at that same time, but it's pre-drawn for you. And again, nobody knows the difference if it's pre-drawn like that. So. What other questions?
What about drawings? What about, we worked on our anthropomorphic images, happy faces, and cars and buses versus words. What would you suggest on using those types of devices?
If you can draw, it might be more cumbersome. If somebody can't draw at all, would you want to do that? But certainly you can make a point by drawing something. A picture is usually worth 1,000 words, whether you're showing a picture or you're drawing it. I think it's useful. Most people don't mind because they don't realize, or they realize that you're not an artist. They don't expect a 3D picture of something with perfect scale. They actually, it makes you feel comfortable that somebody is able to express something in another form. Remember, everybody is not going to be locked to a particular word. People are going to be visual. People want to see a big picture. People want to see a flow chart. And sometimes as you're walking something through, it lends a wonderful opportunity that somebody can interject and ask a question as you're building something, which often can't be done when you're locked into a PowerPoint.
What about the issue of how to hold the pens, cap on, cap off, cap on, drop the pen, the whole awkwardness and fumbling and distraction with the pen itself?
It becomes no different than hands in the pocket, wiggling change, snapping a pen. It becomes another crutch or tool, if not. Generally, you probably should let go of them. There's usually a base on your flip chart paper. The tray. I usually keep the 4 colors that I want to use, maybe 2 on each side if I'm going to rotate. I'm going to use 2, I might have 4 colors, but I'm only going to use 2 per whatever chart. I might change if I'm changing some kind of theme or thought and I'm going on to a new topic. Depends on the length of your presentation. Ideally, you're not really holding on to them, and what you don't want to do is keep snapping, because some people will just snap. It also gets a little dangerous because your hand can get pretty stained from the color. Generally, you would have something to put them down with. I wouldn't hold on to them.
One other point of, if you're going to plan to use flip charts, you want to, again, be prepared. So look what we ended up with. Because I just
Very wobbly.
assumed that those beautiful flip charts on rollers would be in this room as I found them. And they turned out to be in that room. And I didn't get here early enough, so the other group turfed and took both those, and we had nothing. So again, we're trying to solve the problem. We have those desktop ones, not big enough. These guys are pretty precarious. It's an easel, doesn't really have a proper locking device. It's hard to move around, it can collapse. So we're kind of in a compromise here with something that's unstable and unsteady. So if it's a big presentation, know what equipment's in the room. Again, I think this is really saying a lot. You have to buy or you secure your own set of markers, and you insist on fresh markers every time. I mean, we don't want to be wasteful. If you don't have your own markers, test the markers that are in the room and throw away the ones that are out of ink. Just don't even let them be part of the mix there.